usually don't have much in the way of lump sums, but definitely redundancies, they do, and you would be needing to record them. So yeah, if you've got any queries about your terminations, just again, contact the help desk and we'll have a look at it with you.
Yep, we'll do that. Thank you.
Definitely when it comes to ETP, if it has a taxable component of the termination payment, then the tax actually has to be recorded against a different tax ID. So your normal tax ID each week when you're doing your pays is the PAYG tax ID. But when you're recording the tax on an ETP, it has to be recorded against the tax ID PAYGC. And that's probably the area where a lot of people go wrong and need a bit of help with. So yeah, just contact us if you have a termination you want help with. All right, so you do need to have a review of your list of pays, deductions, and fringes. So you can see an example here. I'm using the inquiry list pay and standard deductions and fringes. And then I just added a column to show the printed description. So it's a nice quick snapshot without having to go through each one, the setup of each one by one. You can get it in an inquiry screen like this, so you can have a look and then identify any of them that may be needing to be changed. And then you can go into the setup of those to change it. So once you've configured your report and you run your report, and you've generated your final STP file. Now the instructions for generating that file, they're all laid out in those procedures that we're going to email out to you. So like I said, I'm not going to take you through step by step doing that today. Once you've got that file, you're going to upload the final file to the STP portal, but then download a copy of it to Excel before you submit the file. So you want to do this reconciliation before you submit it. Okay, so just let it sit in there and do your reconciliation. And that way, if you identify any problems, because it's not submitted yet, you can just delete it, do your fixes in payroll and generate the file again. And once you're happy that it's all fully reconciled, then you would submit it. So when you download it into Excel, it's going to look a little bit like this. You're going to add some totals to the bottom of the sheet. It won't have any totals on it. You'll need to do that. And then you'll need to compare those totals to the last page of your STP reconciliation report that also has totals. So you can see we've got a total number of employees. So in this case, I've got 7, and you can see I have 7 employees. So spot on. And then you're checking your totals. So this gross pay up here, that is not the one that you're going to match to the gross pay down here. This is gross pay, including allowances and lump sums and not reportable figures. It's your payroll gross pay. When we're looking at what's being reported for single touch payroll, it's these ones here that are highlighted because these are following the setup of your single touch payroll. So to exclude anything that's not reportable, to break out allowances into a separate figure to the gross payment. So you're going to reconcile these figures and make sure they match to the totals that are in your Excel that you've downloaded. Now, if you have any variances, sorry, lots of words on this page, but basically, first thing to do is check that your total number of employees matches, because if you don't have the right number of employees, then straight away you're going to most likely not have the right total dollars. So if there are employees missing, I recommend that you use this employee information, employee totals inquiry. it lists all the employees that are set up in payroll. You're going to add a column for final event and then final event date, and then add the condition year-to-date gross pay is not equal to 0. And that way you're going to see all employees who got any sort of payment during the year. From that, check that the final event checkbox isn't ticked for anybody, because if final event is ticked for somebody, then they're not going to be included in your STP file. And so that's probably the most common problem is someone's done a termination and they've put in the termination date and they've ticked the final event checkbox and put in the final event date. And as soon as you do that, that person no longer gets reported in the STP file. And so you really don't want to do that. The only time you want to tick that final event checkbox and put the final event date in is if, for example, an employee is leaving the country and needs to do their tax return early, or God forbid it was a deceased person, like in the estate preparing the tax return, then you would do the final event early. Otherwise, for all other terminations throughout the year, you're going to leave that final event checkbox not ticked. So if you do have someone that is ticked, just go into their employee setup, untick the checkbox, and then generate your STP file again. And then that person will then be included in the file. Now you may find you've got too many employees, in which case you've probably got someone included in there who terminated in a prior year and hasn't actually earned anything this year. And it's no problem as such, although I did find in prior years we've had people ringing up and saying, my employee has a $0 income statement and they want me to get rid of it. And they don't like that they've been reported with a 0 balance. Basically, if that happens, just tell your employee to ignore it. If the ATO is going to ignore it, they can ignore it too. It's as long as it doesn't have any dollars against it. But to generate that final file, if you don't want to include those $0 employees, just go in and tick the final event checkbox and put last year end date in there. So if you put 30 June 2020 with the final event checkbox ticked, then that way, done and dusted, not going to be included in this year's STP file. All right, so once you've got the right number of employees, but potentially you still have incorrect totals, you just want to double check your form setup and the configuration of your report. Maybe through your report and have a look at some of the employees, you know, some people with salary sacrifice and allowances and things, and check that all of the pays and things are being reported on the reconciliation report as you expect them to. And then you could go and check them also in the STP file and see if they match. So basically do some spot checking. You know, for those employees who are a little bit different to the average employee. If required, you can look at each one by one, but obviously with a very large payroll, that's going to take you some time. But you know, if you really can't find where it's going wrong, then you may need to resort to doing that. And you're always welcome at any time. If you need help, please contact our help desk and let us know, and we'll jump online, try and give you a hand and see what the problem is. So the reports that you're going to pull out are going to look like this. Just black out, you'll have your company name at the top and your employee ID and employee names where these black lines are. And you'll basically have a full breakdown by employee of what's being reported. So super guarantee, reportable super, fringe benefits, that sort of thing. So on the last page of the report, that's where you get your totals. And so that's what you can use. Always start by trying to match up your totals. And if you can't get your totals to match, then that's where you can go down to employee by employee if you need to.
In a lot of ways, Pam, that's very similar to the old payment summary reports, isn't it, for those who remember doing payment summaries? You get one page for each employee and then all the totals on the last page, when it's really the last page that you're interested first of all.
Yeah.
Okay, and if anyone hasn't got the STP reconciliation report?
Yeah, just again, drop an email through to the help desk. We can help to install it and, you know, run through a quick setup with you and make sure it's working. For some customers, we have to modify it slightly. You know, some customers have deductions being used for their salary sacrifice, whereas others have fringes being used. So we just want to make sure the report's pulling through the figures correctly and doing the right thing for you.
So there'd be no harm in running that report now and just making
Not
sure
at all.
it does run correctly, because
absolutely. And
if we have to reload the report onto your system, we'd rather know now rather than June 30.
Yeah, and you can even run, I have some customers who run preliminary reconciliations early in June. And they'll run this report after they've done their STP reporting for just, you know, whatever their last week or last pay run was. And they can run the report up to that last pay run and make sure that it's all balancing. And you can do that in preparation for year end so that when you get to that, you know, critical time to get it all done, you know that it's all, you know, you've done your work to make sure that everything's set up correctly.
So Diane, who I think really is Carol, has said Judd hasn't emailed the payroll procedure for this year, right? No, I don't think it's been emailed out this year yet.
Not yet, because I have just updated it yesterday. Yesterday with all the dates. And really, Carol, that's the only thing that's changed. The procedures are the same. Nothing's really changed. Coming in 1st of January, I believe, is when STP phase 2 will kick in, and that will have some changes. And just again, keep your eyes and ears posted for communication from us about that coming.
And of course, if you think you haven't received a notification that you should have, just send an email into the help desk, which is help@thrivetech.com.au. If there's anyone here who doesn't know, sending an email to that help@thrivetech.com.au is the quickest way to get a consultant to help you. It comes into a central emailing system where every consultant has access to it. So then we can see who the consultant, you know, because obviously we've got so many different products and consultants have their specialist areas. The correct consultant picks it up from there. If you email it to a consultant direct, you know, you're risking that they're not even working that day. For anyone who was early to this link up, I was telling Kirsten, so Victoria had a public holiday on Monday and I had a day's annual leave yesterday. So today's only my first day back for the week. So a couple of people did email me direct, and unfortunately, if I'm not here, you can't answer it. And same with even phoning consultants direct. You're risking that they're just having a day off or not available. So always email into that help desk email, and someone will get back to you as soon as possible.
Right. Has anybody got any questions?
I'm good.
Awesome. Well, look, we'll be distributing the notes from today's webinar, as well as the procedures that you can see on the screen. We'll send those out after our meeting today.
Thank you.
Looks good. Thanks, Pam.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.